Hi, and welcome to another episode of Facts, Figures, and Fallacies from the Frontline podcast. Today, we are very excited to have Colby Moody joining us. He is the owner of Revelation Power. He is going to dive into how the new One Big Beautiful Bill has impacted the solar industry. And we're going to talk about how that works for both individual consumers and also commercial business consumers. So without further ado, Colby, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Definitely. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so I guess before we dive too deep in, if you could just give everyone a little bit of info about how you got into the solar industry, maybe why you like this industry, and yeah, just a little bit of background on that.
Yeah, so I originally got back in the solar or into the solar industry back in 2014. The original plan was, getting into the electrical contracting field straight out of high school, and it's blessed me for many years. I just look at it as an evolving, powerful industry that is, especially helping the Texas grid, for instance. I mean, I know it's helping nationwide, but there's been a lot of instances where there's just so many people populating the grid that it's almost impossible for Encore or any of these other big, distribution companies to even keep up. And so there's a lot of great things that come out of the solar industry, but there's also a lot of negatives that we've seen over the past few years. And we can cover some of those today. And I think that, the Big Beautiful Bill is going to affect in some good and bad ways, in my opinion. Just because of the fact of so many large players going out of business, banks and everything like that. But it's also going to start cleaning up not only the pricing, but the actual installation and the amount of, I would say, scams and overpopulated pricing that you see in the solar industry. I mean, it's all over the news. It's almost a bad rep that we get as a solar customer or sales company, and we're a large time installer. We do more installs than we do sales, but we all fit right there in the same. We're in the industry together. So I've probably done a little over 12 to 13,000 installs in the residential side, and a little over 300 or 400 commercial projects as well. We're actually working with some big time data centers right now, doing a lot of off grid stuff, a few commercial projects like that. I will say that what we've seen and what we are coming to understand that's going to change the most with the Big Beautiful Bill is that the bank fees are extremely high right now. There's these hidden fees called dealer fees that we as a sales company have to pass along on to the customer. And what's happening with that is the banks are raising their interest rates from a 0.99 to 1.99. That looks great on paper, but you don't realize there's another 20 to 30% tacked onto that for being an unsecured loan. And that's why solar can be so affordable. But the reason they're able to do that is because with that 30% tax credit that they're almost guaranteeing to a lot of these customers, that is, it's so hard to even get unless you have a great CPA that can take care of that. And to be honest with you, it's something that I see is going to help a lot of companies, especially like me, that doesn't necessarily sell on the 30%. That's just a benefit to the customer. But it's going to help them start lowering the price to the consumer. Right now, solar is not based like any other contracting, like roofing or straightforward electrical, plumbing, things like that, where there's just a markup and a margin. Everything's priced per watt, just like your electric bill. The average price in Texas is 18 cents, and there's companies coming in selling it $5.50. So basically, on a 10 kW, which is 10,000 watts or roughly 25 solar panels, that's 50 grand. And in reality, you should be selling that for down close to $2 a watt at 20 grand. So there's a $30,000 difference right there that the bank and the sales company's keeping, and that I think is going to start changing now that the bill is passing or has passed, and it's going to make the banks that are pushing these high fees go out of business. And that's why we've been partnered with a lot of credit unions and stuff like that, to where we can help the consumer right out of the gate.
Great.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So Colby, if you're a residential consumer, you've got to have your solar system operational in service by December 31st, 2025. what does that look like on a timeline? When would you have to start that project to get it operational by 2025?
So there's actually a lot of steps before getting it operational. The first step is going to be getting engineering stamps done and then dealing with the city to make sure you get all the permitting done and inspection after install. So if you're looking to jump on this tax credit, you definitely need to be looking no later than October, I would say, for a lot of companies, because not only is it already a 2 to 3 week difference in install to get you on a schedule for most installers, but this schedule is filling up very quickly this year just because so many people are jumping at it. So keep in mind, it's not just you racing against time, it's you racing against other customers that want that tax credit as well.
Right. So for your company, you would need to be under contract by October 31st?
For sure. Yeah. End of October is pretty much going to be the cutoff point, in my opinion, to get that tax credit, because just to be operational, you're looking at 2 to 3 weeks during permitting time. Once you get into some of the bigger cities around DFW, you're looking at least a month to 2 months before you even get a permit.
Right. And then for a commercial purchaser, what's the timeline on that? I know the deadline is December 31st, 2027. So when
Correct.
would that need to be under contract?
It takes about 6 months of prep just to get to an average scale commercial project. So if you're anywhere of, I would say, a minimum of a megawatt system, which is a fairly large system, you have within the next 2 to 3 months. It's going to come within that quick, just because a lot of things that have happened with the bill, as well as they're pushing for more domestic content, which is great. We need to start building in America. That's what their goal is. But it's impossible to get everything built in America that's made in a solar panel right now. America just doesn't make it. And so the problem with that is they're basically cutting back on everything that's non-domestic, and pricing is going through the roof for commercial. And on top of that, it takes forever to get the paperwork done now. The paperwork is almost tripled just to get a commercial deal going for a tax credit now. And so in order to make that happen, you're within 2 to 3 months. These data centers were pushing their timeline went from getting ready to install first of next year to, if they don't start installing in the next month, the deal's going to break.
Right. And the components that you have to purchase from a non-foreign, China, North Korea?
Asia, and the Philippines is pretty much the big ones that we see.
Okay. And what percentage are you purchasing from those countries right now?
In the past 6 months, it's going down, but we're typically around 80% of the product that goes on the roof is overseas.
Okay. And you've got to get that down to 40 or 60?
It's got to be it's got to be 50% domestic, made in America, in order to qualify for the tax credit going forward. So,
okay.
and that's just for what they've pushed for the next 2 years. They're talking about even raising that number to 70-80%. If that happens, then it's almost impossible to get that tax credit.
Okay. And as far as price, how is that affecting the price for residential and commercial?
It's doubling the cost of the material just by going to domestic. So there's actually a lot of people that are not even pushing the domestic and not pushing the tax credit at this moment now, because it doesn't make that big of a difference by the time that you do all the paperwork in price, that you might not even get that much back on the tax credit to qualify or to cover the domestic content.
Okay. And so, Nick, you want to talk about exactly what the tax credit is, and without that tax credit, what would the benefit be of the solar system from a tax perspective?
Yeah. So I guess I just wanted to mention, for a commercial, for example, like if you're a commercial business that's considering doing this, you could potentially, add solar to your office, for example, and you could get your 30% tax credit, right? So if let's just say it costs $100,000, you could potentially get $30,000 as a credit. But in addition to that, you could depreciate, you could take a write-off for the cost of the solar panels. So it's almost like you're getting to kind of double dip, because you're getting a tax credit plus you're getting a deduction on your business tax return for depreciation expense. And so that is one of the benefits to the one big beautiful bill. The bonus depreciation has been renewed to 100%, which means even if you're financing your solar install, you can still write all of that off right now. And so you can see the benefits of basically taking that deduction and getting that credit potentially. So I guess, in a sense, that's why it might make a lot of sense if you're considering to, doing this. Now really is the best time to jump on board and make that decision.
Yeah, we've on the commercial scale, we've done a few wineries that have, they've got machines they need to keep going. They've done some a lot of commercial areas like that are for pleasure or outdoor entertainment. They're doing a lot of the car chargers as well. That's been something that is a part of the tax credit as well. They're seeing upwards of 70, 80, even 90% off of their system by the time they claim the depreciation and the tax credit right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, and Colby, for a typical, just a small office building, take our office for example, what would it cost to put ballpark solar on our office?
For small commercials, typically starting at around 50,000.
50,000, then you would get a $50,000 tax deduction that first year. So reduce taxable income by $50,000, and in addition, get a 30%, so 15,000 tax credit,
and
that
credits
tax
are better.
credit be rolled forward.
Yep, credits are
For
dollar
the next
for dollar.
20 years, for the next 20 years if you don't have a tax liability. So yeah, that's pretty attractive. So
Yeah.
are you expecting, since the tax credit is phasing out, are you expecting that to come down? Sales?
I am expecting it to come down. I think that like I was saying earlier, I think the sales commissions is going to change drastically to a point where it's not I can price it up to whatever the government tells me I can. I think it's going to be a more competitive market, just like roofing, to where it's not as saturated, but you're going to see actual pricing coming in that's going to be 20 and 30% margins instead of 150% margins.
Right.
And so I think that it's going to be better for the consumer in a way of pricing, but I also think that you're going to start seeing that the amount of jobs and financing options are going to go down, because right now there is a little over 20,000, we call them solar orphans, in the DFW market alone, where banks that were prepaid leases and holding the warranty banks have went out of business. And so we have 20,000 solar orphans that are just sitting here. Their system either A, doesn't work, it's not producing correctly, or it was never installed completely in the first place to get the money. Because as an installer, I can go out and I can say, hey, we put panels on the roof, you have glass now. But I didn't hook it up the electrical, and actually do the interconnection agreement, which is basically what you would do with your utility company to make sure that they know you have a solar system so it actually reads correctly. And so they can get paid without even connecting the system. And so there's so many customers out here that are seeing these fly-by-night companies come in, or out-of-state companies that are just coming in to make a quick buck because of that 150% margin. I mean, who wouldn't want to make that in a business industry? If any business, any industry in the world, if you make 150% margins and the customer's happy, that's, unheard of. And that's part of the reason you're seeing installers that are not certified. You're seeing electricians that don't have licenses come in. Houses are burning down all over the country because of it.
Oh, goodness.
I think we're going to start seeing a lot better installations, and it's going to actually evolve as an industry that's identical to roofing and electrical. There's no difference in it, and it shouldn't be priced differently. So to be able to still get tax credits or any kind of special drop-offs in pricing, anything that can help the customer out, that should go directly to the customer. Make your margins, be a successful installer, sales company, whatever you want to do, but don't take it out on the customer.
Right. So Colby, when it comes to having solar, whether it be at a business location or even at your personal residence, I guess my question would be, how much of a savings does the average person see on their electric bill? Because they basically don't have an electric bill, right? Or it's very minimal. and they're just potentially financing the solar.
Yeah, and that's ultimately the goal. It's the easiest way to do it is if you're getting into a new house. I don't ever recommend getting solar. It's stay there, see what you live, how you live. I can have two identical houses, two different families in there. One could be a single family, one could have 3 kids, and their solar system, even though it's the exact same house, is going to be tremendously different just because of the way they live. So it's never a 100% guarantee you're not going to have an electric bill. I've got customers that have $30, $40 electric bills and they're super happy. I've got customers we've installed for other companies that are extremely upset because they weren't sized correctly. They had incorrect numbers put in. The more data, the better. I've even got a customer that he gets paid $150 a month on his electricity bill because he sends so much back. So the goal would be to originally do what we call 100% offset. That means if your house is using, let's say, 10,000 kilowatt hours a year, we want a solar system that's going to produce just about at that. With a straightforward solar system, we can always do pretty close to that as long as there's not a lot of shading, and we can always save you some money up front. Now, a big trend we are seeing is that more customers are going with batteries. They're tired of the power outages, rolling blackouts, brownouts, and that does make the cost go up a little bit more, but it's still having an amazing ROI. I'm still seeing ROIs between 8 to 11 years. And the solar system, even though you're financing it for 20 to 25, you're still seeing a quick return on your investment at the point of, as long as it's sized correctly, as long as you know how to use your system and monitor it, you're definitely saving money. And within 6 to 8 months is typically the first time I see a good bill. And then another topic that I know we wanted to discuss today was the difference between how to finance, different options on how to purchase the solar for your home or your commercial business. Best option always cash is king. It's just, it is what it is. That's always going to be the cheapest option if you're fortunate enough to do that. But there always is unsecured loans, so you can finance. There's multiple banks out there. As long as you find a company that will give you a bank that's basically going to charge you what the solar system cost originally to install twice in dealer fees or hidden fees behind it. Now they are unsecured, so they typically take all the way down to a 640 credit score. They don't look back more than 2 or 3 years. I can get you financed within 30 seconds. It's super easy. It's kind of scary how easy it is to get financed. If car dealerships could do that, everybody would be driving around $100,000 vehicles.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, those rates have been changing due to the fact of the change in the industry, especially with the bill. When I first got into solar, we could get down to like a 5% interest rate, and the dealer fee was only 8 or 9%. So, you're paying 13, 14% total on your system, and we didn't have issues back then. Now we're seeing that it's 199, 299 with a 30% dealer fee. And it's starting to look a little bit more unattractive when you have competitors like us come in with credit unions, and for the same system, I can get you a $25,000 system, a few hundred more dollars more on a payment, but you're saving $25,000 over a few years. A few other options that are going around right now are leases and PPAs, which are called power purchase agreements. A lease is where basically an investing team, they come in as a bank and they're going to lease you. That means the only thing you have to be up to date on to even qualify is you need to be up to date on your mortgage payment and up to date on your electric bill. That's it. They don't need your social security number. They don't need anything else. And the way that works is it's put on an escalation. So they're going to take your average bill. They're typically going to go about $10 to $15 less than your average bill. And then every year your payment's going to go up by about 4% for 25 years. After the 25 years, you have the option to keep the system, buy it, however you set up on that lease, depending on their options. When this happens, you're not eligible for the tax credit. The group of investors that own the lease are eligible for the tax credit, and they claim your depreciation. So you do lose a big chunk of that by not being eligible there. And I think that we're also seeing that a lot of these leases that are coming in are not producing as good as they should be because they don't care about hitting your offsets. They don't care about offsetting your electric bill. What they care about is, what is my magic number? How big of a system or how small of a system can I put on there to benefit myself on the tax credit? Because there's numbers to where I can price to max out for the tax credit. And so if I'm at a 7 kW, I can make a little bit more money there compared to an 11 kW system, meaning a 7,000 watt or 11,000 watt. With that being said, if you need an 11 kW system to offset your system, but they're making more money with a 7 kW, they're going to give you that 7 kW, because at the end of the day, the only thing that you're getting that solar for is because they want to make their money. That's what everybody wants.
So if I bought a system today, then how long would I expect that to last?
Systems are lasting up between 30 to 50 years right now. Most panel manufacturers are putting a 25 to 30 year warranty on their panels alone. The electrical components itself, they're going to be between 10 to 20 year warranty. You don't ever see them really going up over that, but systems are lasting a long time. We've actually got to go out and work on a system out by Decatur, actually, that a guy had a system that he had put in the 70s, and it was still producing with less than, I think it was still just over 90%. So it didn't even degrade more than 10% in that many years. So the quality of the panels have went up tremendously. They're not going to get any better than they are now. Silicon's at an all-time high on production. It's almost impossible for the scientists to do any better than what they have. So until they come out with a new way to make a solar panel, there's a lot of customers that we see are saying, well, it's always evolving. Technology is always getting better. We want to wait for these next few years to see what happens. It's not getting better. The batteries have changed by, I would say, 100% in how good they've gotten over the past 3 years, just because we've switched from lithium ion to lithium iron intercore, meaning that you don't have to worry about a battery blowing up in your house no more. That's the reason the Tesla car has done so great, because he switched over to the lithium iron. Everyone wants Tesla because of the name, right? But it's mandatory across all electrical codes to even get a permit now to use lithium iron batteries, just due to the fact of code changes, safety issues, and UL listings to where you can even sell your product in America. So it's changed drastically. The systems are lasting for a long time now, and they're meant to last as your own power grid.
Okay. Nick, got anything else?
Yeah, I was going to ask Colby, what's the process like, or what would it look like for somebody who buys and installs like a solar system, but then they decide to move a few years later? Does that increase the value of their home? Is there a way to transfer those? Like, does anybody ever try to basically move their system to the new location, or is that obviously just not feasible? How does that look usually?
There is multiple different options for that. And it all depends on which bank you get set up with, or if you pay cash. So to answer your first part of that question, does it make the equity of your home go up? Yes, it does. It just depends on the system you put in and your price per watt you get. So basically, if I'm selling you a system around $250 a watt, which is where I'm at, you're automatically getting about $1.50 a watt in equity into your home. The going rate from the government, and I believe it's Berkeley Labs that put out the actual document, they're showing that a realtor should be pushing your system around $4 a watt. So on a 10 kW system, you should have about $40,000 in equity into your home added to your property value. Now, in the state of Texas in 2017, they passed two laws. One being that it does not make your taxes go up because it's green energy. And the second law being that it does make your appraisal value go up. So it all depends on your realtor at that point as well, how much they feel like they can push there. A big thing that we do see is it all depends on your buyer. Solar does have a bad name every now and then, like we talked about. And so sometimes you do get buyers a little less interested because of the solar industry, or the solar on the roof itself. So there's a few different ways you can go about it. The best way that I've seen, and what I've personally done as well, is that I have paid the system down myself quite a bit, even if I've had a loan on it. And then I got my value back by adding, let's say my house was $200,000. I bought a $40,000 system. Okay. I sold my house for $240,000 and then kept the extra money that I'd already put towards the system. Okay. Now there is banks that will let you just change the loan over. All they got to do is do a pre-qualification with them, which, if you can buy a house, you can buy solar. The credit score is tremendously different. It's an unsecured loan. So again, it's so easy to get approved. It's scary. The third option is if you want to take that system to your next house, you are more than welcome to. You just have to get with the bank that is financed, unless you paid cash, to set that up. And then basically you would have to cover the cost yourself to get the roof fixed or mended to where you're not having leaks from the past. The biggest concern I see with that as an installer to a consumer is that your next house may be bigger. It may use more electricity, it may be built different. So that system might not be a feasible option for your next house.
And can you add on to the system, or is it just one and done?
Most systems you can add on to, yes.
Okay. And if you had roof damage, maybe a hailstorm, we get that a lot in Texas. How does that impact your solar panels?
I have only ever seen less than probably 50 solar panels broken by hail in the past decade. And that's just from what I've seen personally. It's got to be some big hail. Over here in Weatherford area, we had a pretty big hailstorm back in April. And I've got a customer that has 35 panels we're replacing for him. We're only having to actually replace one of them. One of them broke. It was covered by warranty. So luckily that was taken care of for him. As to do with the insurance, let's say that your system protects your roof, but you want to go ahead and get a whole new roof. Most installers will work directly with your roofer. Some roofers do have qualifications now to take your panels off. That's been a growing theme over the past few years. But your insurance company will pay if you put your solar on your insurance company to take the panels off, have your roof replaced, and then have them put back on. And then all warranties are withheld as long as you use a certified installer. So, and it doesn't make, one of the biggest questions I get from installer consumers is that, well, I don't want to put it on my insurance because I don't want my insurance going up. My home insurance is already crazy. I have seen some companies like Germania, for instance, that doesn't charge a dime for you to put solar on your roof because it actually helps protect your roof over time.
Right.
There's a lot of companies that don't even have to replace the solar or move the solar. They just replace around it just because the solar has protected the roof. The most I've seen it go up is $100 a year. So, $100 a year is a lot better than having to spend $7,000 or $8,000 to come get them taken off and put them back on over time.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think you've really gone through the questions that we had, the changes that the big, beautiful bill has made. I guess just to kind of close us out, do you see anything in the future? I know we kind of hit on this earlier, but do you have any like speculations on kind of how the industry will adapt post, once these tax credits do phase out? It sounds like you were saying that maybe it'll be more of a reasonable margin, and hopefully some of these lenders and banks and people won't be taking advantage of the consumer. So that's interesting. Anything else on that front that you see maybe transforming here in the next few years?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a big drop in the amount of installers there is out there. I also think that we're going to see that the sales are probably going to be cut in over half over the next few years. But one thing that I just can't see happening is the solar industry going away. It's almost a need nowadays. There was an article that came out from ERCOT last week that they're estimating another $2.5 million project going in within the next 2 or 3 months just to help offset some of the utility usage that we're having right now from the grid. I don't remember the exact number, but there is a crazy astronomical amount of people coming into Texas daily, and it's on one grid. So if one grid goes down, all of Texas goes down. It's all one grid together. And so there's only two options for consumers in Texas. And that's one, we don't try to help the grid. We don't do anything for it. And your utility rates are going to start looking like California because someone's got to pay for the grid to be built. And right now our average is about 18 cents. They're looking at upwards of 35 to 40 cents just for electricity if we don't start doing something. And during some of the recent storms we've had, especially back in 2021, when we all had that huge ice storm, some people were without power for 2 weeks. There was actually parts of Texas that they said were 100% operable or operating just because of the solar industry. So that's part of the reason why these tax benefits even came out in the first place, was to help offset that. And so I think that even though it's going to change quite a bit over the next few months, I think that there's going to eventually be a level out plane to where It's just an industry. It's necessary to be there, and someone's got to do it. So I think it's going to change for the good, but it's going to be a hard fall to get there.
Right. And Colby, do you know what percentage Texas is currently solar?
I could not tell you that. I think the last time we looked, it was about 14%. And they were looking upwards of needing to be around 50% in order to even offset what's coming in daily right now. And I could be wrong on some of those numbers. That's something we've read in the past. There needs to be a lot more, because I can tell you now, there's a lot of people struggling to pay electricity bills as we speak. And to go from, let's say, 20 cents on $100 or on 1,000 kilowatts, that's $200 a month. Imagine that being 400 and you didn't change the way you live. The only thing you did was live here. So that's the budget for people is going to start being an issue.
Colby, thank you so much. This was a great conversation. Always interested in learning about, different industries like this. So it's very good info. So hopefully if you're watching this and you've been considering and kind of mulling over, doing a solar install, hopefully this is a reminder that now is really probably the best time to jump on that to take advantage of these credits, this bonus depreciation if it's for a commercial use. So yeah, thanks again, Colby. This was great.
And Colby, what is your company name and website?
Revelation Solar, and it's www.revelationsolar.com. So we appreciate y'all having
it. We'll put a link to his website in our description.
Yeah, and we give out free quotes. We're happy to help anybody. And I'm going to be upfront with everybody on, if you are looking for solar, sometimes it does not pencil out for you. So don't jump at it. It's an investment. It's just like buying a home. Make sure that it's what you want. Make sure you're investing, because you're investing in the next 25 to 30 years of your life. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Great information. Thank you, Colby.
Thank you.